Live from London, this is BBC News. Hello there, live from London, this is BBC News. It is 6 p.m. in London. This is The World Today with Rich Preston. This is the scene live in Moscow as Russia holds a military parade. Well, let's speak now to Vitaly Shevchenko, Russia editor at BBC Monitoring. Vitaly, good to see you. So the Great Patriotic War there, linked very closely to the so-called special military operation. In Ukraine itself, however, fighting's continued, with authorities there saying Russia continues to attack across the entire front, despite an order from Russia's president for a 3-day ceasefire. Let's speak to our security correspondent, Frank Gardner, who's in Kiev. Frank, good morning. So a ceasefire that, yet again, is not a ceasefire. As we've been reporting, at the heart of today's revelations are new screenshots from that group chat. Now, let's just take a look in a bit more detail at what this new information has shown us. Now,
into chaos and confusion. Mark Ashdown, BBC News.
Well, let's get more on that chaos and confusion. We'll go live to Washington and our correspondent Jake Kwan, who's following the story from there. Jake, good to see you. Let's talk first about the significance of where Mr. Trump made this announcement. Steel City, Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Well, let's stay in North America for the time being, because on Sunday, Mexico will hold national elections, asking people not to choose their local politicians or national leaders, but to choose the country's judges. Several countries elect some judges, but Mexico will become the first to elect all of them. That's more than 7,500 magistrates and judges chosen by direct vote. Let's find out more about this, and in particular some of the controversies surrounding it. We can talk to Luz Orozco, who previously worked at the Mexican Supreme Court of Justice and is now at the University of Oxford. Luz, good to talk to you. How did this come about? This is huge. Let's speak now to Atullah Tarar, Pakistan's Minister of Information, who joins us from Islamabad. Minister, good afternoon to you there. Thank you very much for joining us. You heard the Indian military spokeswoman there saying they identified military targets and used precision strikes to target those sites. What's your response to that?
To cooperate with any fair and transparent investigation into the matter.
Well, Minister, if I may, it's not about an investigation. India would say this shouldn't have happened in the first place. Responsibility for this attack was claimed by the TRF, which is linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba, a militant group operating within Pakistan. It is an obligation of the Pakistani government to stamp out militant groups like this, like Jaish-e-Mohammed, which operate within your territory. Well, let's speak now to Vikram Doraisamy, India's High Commissioner to the UK. Your Excellency, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the programme. Pakistan says India is hitting civilians. Pakistan's Information Minister says they are scooping up women and babies. Is India targeting Pakistani civilians?
Including on buying weapons from China and from Turkey and the United Kingdom.
Well, you mentioned China there. It's thought around 80% of Pakistan's weapons come from China. There are also links between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, as you mentioned. Are you concerned, Your Excellency, that India is somewhat isolated on the international stage here? And just to bring you an update on that story, in the last few moments, President Trump has posted on his Truth social media site saying, after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, let's bring in our correspondent in Islamabad, Azadeh Mashiri, on this breaking news. Azadeh, we're just getting this in the last few minutes. What more do we know?
My colleague Rich Preston is with me here. Rich, just bring us up to date.
Well, Lewis, as you say, this has just come into us in the last few moments. A statement issued by Cardinal Farrell announcing with sorrow the death of Pope Francis. Well, Lewis, just in the last few moments, the US Vice President, who's currently on a trip to India, absolutely right up to the wire. He was working, doing the job that he loved. He wrote the homily for yesterday's Easter service. He didn't deliver it, but he did write it. Well, Catherine, good morning. There's more journalists here this morning than there are aeroplanes in the sky. The ripples of this, of course, being felt far and wide. Yes, this is a London airport, but it's the airport with the most international connections in the world. Think if you live in the United States, you're travelling to Asia, chances are you might be going via Heathrow. You talk about all the trade that goes through Heathrow, for example, handling everything from live animals to fruit and veg to medicines to electrical equipment going all over the world. This will have effects far and wide. The mind, frankly, boggles as to how this one fire managed to cause this extent of disruption. Now, this is part of the UK's what's called critical national infrastructure. It forms part of the UK's national security strategy, what's called...
And our very lucky reporter, Rich Preston, is there. Hi, Rich.
Lakshmi, hello, good evening to you. Yes, we're here on the red carpet at the South Bank for the 78th BAFTA Film Awards. I'm here with our entertainment correspondent, Lisa Mazimba.
Over 370 flights cancelled yesterday, right at the beginning of the tourism season. Rich, does it look a little bit better today?
Christian, it's looking much better today. We're in the dwindling hours of daylight here. And Portugal is only connected to one country, its neighbour Spain. So when there's a glitch in the Spanish system, the inevitability is that that's going to trickle down to the Portuguese system.
Let's speak now to our correspondent Rich Preston, who was listening to that speech at Chatham House.
It needs to be stronger, fairer and more lethal because Russia is a threat to us and in the next 3 to 5 years could launch an attack on a NATO country. You mentioned earlier as well, not just Russia, China, Iran and North Korea, a group that he described as the awful foursome. Details are still trickling through, Anita. We're still not 100% clear on the numbers, and we really have to stress that. This specific plane, the 7878 Dreamliner, had a fuel tank capacity of over 100,000 kilograms of aviation fuel. For the moment, I'm joined on set here by Nikki Fox, our disability news correspondent. Nikki, so good and so useful to have you here with us. Now, as I said, this is both a complex but important news story.
Yes.
Talk us through some of the changes, how the land lies at the minute, and what the Prime Minister has proposed.
OK, well, let's
They're talking us through some of the complexities to this hugely important system that thousands of people rely on. First, perhaps the most obvious question, why is the Prime Minister doing this? There is, of course, much more on that on the BBC News website and coming up in the context with Kash Madeira, who is here in the seat next. I'll be back same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.